Hello, hello. If you're just joining me for the first time, I am the founder of the True Colors Art Program. That's me, Kelly. My purpose is to help you make more art that's true to you. Hopefully encourage others to share their joy in making art. Anyhow, so let's talk about the oil paint. They are oil paint in a stick form. So I had to do some research. So here are oil pastels, okay? They are just small little teeny crayons. And they're made with more wax than they are oil and then pigment. I love them. I use them often. They're really great mark making. You can paint whole paintings with them. I do them on paper most of the time, but I have used them on canvas and on board. They're harder to use on canvas because they're a little bit firmer. I love the Cran d'Ache is my favorite brand, but I also have bought Sennelier of the oil pastels. So you see, that's a small little bit. And then here are the oil sticks. I was not expecting them to be so big. Look at that. Huge. You know, a lot more stick for your money. Now there's a couple different brands and I have tried all but the three that have been the most popular. So let me grab them. This is Artist Paint Stick by Jack Richeson, I believe. Shiva. Then there's Sennelier. Here's the R&F sticks. These are considered the cream of the crop. Of course, I just got the little teeny sample sets because they are twice the price. See these little sample sets you can get? They're twice the price of these. And I think this is your best bang for your buck because it's the same price as this and yet it's still a little bit bigger. I think the only challenge I had with the Sennelier is that they don't have enough colors. There are certain colors I really, really love to use. I love olive green. This one's not too bad, but it's not quite as olive. Sennelier is a very famous brand. In fact, they're one of the original makers of art products, fine art products that even the Impressionists used. So here's what I liked about this brand specifically is that within 24 hours, it was completely dry. So I could draw. This is acrylic on paper. I just took it and then I put where you see all of these bright pops of orange and red and then this dark green are all oil paint sticks. So once it was dry, within 24 hours, the Sennelier was dry. It took almost a whole week for that orange. That was the R&F stick. Anyhow, yes, Sennelier, Shiva, R&F. Those are the three main ones. But anyhow, what I loved was that I had this idea. I've been, painting on canvas for my current project, which is Super Bloom and Rebloom. It's a whole series where I'm like really taking my expressive florals to the next level. I'm painting over old paintings. I'm creating very much abstract drama, lots of mark making, and I love the look of using oil pastel on my work. In fact, I want to show you what the oil pastel looks on paper. This is my lesson that's in the Virtual Art Summit. And so this is paint, graphite, mark making, and then oil pastel. And that never really dries. You can see that. If I rub on it, it's never really going to dry. I think I've used oil pastel on canvas before, and if I use a fixative and a spray varnish, I can get it to adhere well enough that it's not going to rub off. But it's always been like, do I get the marks that I really want to make? Because when I work on paper or board, I have a hard surface, so I can really draw into it really well. And I really love using oil pastel. Oil pastels are so versatile. However, I don't always want to work on paper or put things behind glass. And really, technically, that's the best solution for oil pastels because they don't ever really quite completely harden and dry. So the process of oil is an evaporation, and there's enough wax in oil pastels that they don't quite harden completely. When I did some research, I found that these work almost like oil pastels. They look so much like oil pastel. Look at that. I just started making some marks. Now I just did this a couple hours ago, so if I'm going to rub my hand on it, ooh, it's already drying. I mean, who would have thought? So whereas oil pastels, you could see that was done a week ago and that that other floral is not completely dry. But this is already drying, and I just put those marks on earlier today with the Sennelier. And I love how rich, because I can make those scribbly marks that I love to make. I feel like it's the perfect complement to finish my acrylic painting. Take a look here. You can't see the whole painting, but you can see these marks that I've been making. So I can come in here and I can make the marks that I always want, these like drawing marks that kind of give it the character, right? That I'm looking to make. But I can't get that look with paint quite the same, but I can do it with oil pastels. But the truth of the matter is the oil pastels, these teeny little crayons don't give me the mark that I want, and they never quite dry. So now this is my new passion, is figuring this out. And I feel like, what else can I do with it? I could probably make an entire painting. So I explored all my ideas, start to finish, finished several paintings. And in the meantime, we were exploring what these oil paints can do. So I had a board with some blue paint on it. So this is a cradle board. If you've ever used cradle board, it's basically a board made to look like a canvas. Look, the whole thing has all this. It's oil paint. It's done. It's set. In a matter of like 2 days, this was completely set. And, you know, this wasn't really even meant to be finished painting, but what I did was I put on a plastic glove. Yes, I have a few of them. I'm not hoarding them. I've had them for years. But if you don't have any, just grab a plastic bag and rub it over your, put it over your hand so you can blend with your hands, because you don't really want the oil paint. But my goodness, can you see? And then I could take something and scratch right into it. Yes, the oil sticks blend so much just like the oil pastels. They're a little bit softer, creamier, and richer than oil pastels, but they have blending sticks. The companies all have blending sticks that you can use too, which would be a colorless. You can buy all of this on dickblick.com. A lot of them, I think you could probably do Jerry's Artorama, Cheap Joe's. Find out if your local art store carries them and if you can order them and have them shipped, because our little stores are struggling a lot right now. Well, I highly recommend that. But my goodness, can you believe that? How rich that is? How many interesting marks you can make? Here's where I need help for those of you who have experience. How do you store them? I clean up with baby wipes when I'm done. I think if you really had a mess, you could probably use typical oil paint, like a thinner, an odorless mineral spirit or something. So I did some research about varnishing. And I would just wait. I would make sure that it's completely dry for a week or two before that it's cured, and use a spray varnish. Don't do a brush on. Just probably best, because there's specific spray varnishes that are meant for both acrylic and oil paint, either or. So those would be your best bets, is to do a spray varnish outside, cover your face, don't breathe it in. And you can choose glossy, matte, satin, it doesn't really matter. I believe there's Kmart varnish. I saw that Winsor & Newton, Sennelier, they all have really good varnishes too. I haven't researched which is the best. I just use what I still have on hand. And I just make sure that it has a UV protection in it, because the UV protection will keep the sun from fading anything. However, these are artist grade paints, which means that the pigments that are being used are much, much better than like student grade paints. Student grade paints can fade more over time, but these are artist grade paints. Here's some other interesting things that I learned. Because they are paint and not just a crayon or something, they form this little film on them, and you need to peel off that film before you can paint with it. So I'm doing that right now, and then maybe I'll paint with this color. The color that I have is Madder Lake Pink. So you have to peel this. So I have an X-Acto on hand to reveal the paint underneath. And then I'm gonna do it where the purple is. I did this huge 6 foot by 4 foot painting, and I finished it with oil sticks. So now I've peeled more of it off, so it's probably gonna be a lot creamier. You can use your hands and blend them. The baby wipe comes in handy. So I can just wipe it off, but I can also use the baby wipe. Like if I didn't like that spot while it's still wet like that, I can blend it a little bit. These are just things that I'm learning now. So for those of you who have more experience with oil sticks, I know that you can take a board, cradle board like this, and you can paint the entire surface like you would as if it was an oil painting. Another thing I'm interested in exploring is mixing the oil sticks with cold wax, because I've always wanted to do cold wax, but I've been very hesitant to ever use oil paint. I've used oil paint before. It dries too slow for me. It has too many rules of fat over lean and thick over thin and blending times, and it just never caught my heart the way acrylic paint works. And I still just love acrylic paint because it can work fast. So for me, the rapidness of acrylic paint and how quick it is works really well with my method of painting. But because I've always loved mark making, before I came back to acrylic painting, I worked in soft pastel and then oil pastel, and then I decided I really wanted to just mix it all up with acrylic painting. But those marks, you can use acrylic paint pens and you can get good marks. I have a piece right here, some marks in it. All those lines are from acrylic paint pens. What do you think? Are you hooked on the idea of it yet? Yeah, they're not very cheap, but these are about between $7 and $10 depending on the color. So this is about the same as a tube of paint. Whereas one stick, which is a little bit bigger than this, one stick of R&F was between $13 and $20. They took longer to dry too, and I think that was one of the main reasons that I wasn't interested in, at this moment, in exploring them more. So let's look at this R&F stick. It's shaped differently. It's a lot more dry, not quite as creamy as the Sennelier one. However, I love the colors that they offered with this Shiva brand because, like I said, I really like olive color. I like the look of like a really neutral green or muted green is my favorite. And then some of the other fun things that they have available. Sometimes you need this, right? Yep, there's another green one. So look, I can just get those little marks in that I love to make. And I can make scribbles in unexpected places that don't have any definition, but it's just giving that interest that you might be able to create. Do you see how it's starting to create layers of dimension, right? What other fun colors? Here we go. I could see a beautiful painting with those three right there. Muted pinks and some muted blues. I think the Shiva sticks do dry as quickly as the Sennelier. Maybe a little bit slower, but we're just talking about, another 12 hours. It's fast enough, I think, though, to be able to work. And if you had more than one project going on at a time, that would probably make it easier. I love it. I feel like I could build up a lot of interesting layers to how I want to do it. I think in my mind, the way I'm looking at using this is not necessarily to paint an entire painting with it. More likely to just add those final marks and details that I love to add. Ooh, that's really light. So while it's still wet, it's really easy to take a mark and knock it back so that it's not so obvious. So if there's something you didn't like, it seems like it's really easy to just kind of wipe it back with a baby wipe while it's still wet. Playful. It's very playful. And for me, any art project that's playful is really where I want to go with it. I love the exploration part of being an artist. I finally got to the point where the process was more fun than the end results. And that took me years to get there because there were a lot of times where I just would get so stuck along the way in trying to form this perfect painting that was in my mind. And now, more often than not, I say, what fun marks can I make? What would happen if I'm really so frustrated with something? What would happen if I just painted black all over it and made some marks? Like, if I get to that point where I'm stuck, I'm willing to take the risk and explore something new and make a mess out of it and say, it's just canvas, it's just paint. It was the experience that was the most important part of it. And in the end, I don't always have a perfect painting. I can even see struggles in this one. However, look, and overall, it's really coming together. But it's years of being able to just play and learn to accept the process. Do you have any more questions, concerns, thoughts? Because I'm up for it. I'll even take you on a journey to this side of my studio and show you this painting. Here you go. I love the colors on this, and I think this could use oil pastel or the oil sticks as well. What do you think? I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much. You guys, make more art, give more love, be helpful, do your best, and I'll see you again. All right, bye. See you.